This is TomoNews for Monday, October 30th. Americans rescued after being lost at sea for 5 months. 2 Americans lost at sea for 5 months in the Pacific were rescued by the U.S. Navy after being spotted by a Taiwanese fishing boat. Jennifer Appel and Tasha Fuyaba left Hawaii for Tahiti this spring with their 2 dogs, but their engine failed on May 30th during a storm. The pair continued on, hoping to reach land by sail. They began issuing daily distress calls for 2 months, but were too far out to be heard by anyone. On Tuesday, a Taiwanese fishing boat spotted the pair 900 miles southeast of Japan and contacted the U.S. Coast Guard in Guam. The USS Ashland arrived the next morning to pick the women and their pooches up. Appel and Fuyaba were able to survive because they had water purifiers and more than a year's worth of food on board. Sheesh, these 2 had more food on their boat than most Americans have at home. Dead man lives, then dies again. A family in Peru was both shocked and distressed to discover their dead family member still breathing at his own funeral. The unfortunate 24-year-old had undergone a root canal where he was reportedly given diazepam, aka Valium. He began developing fever and chills soon after and was taken to hospital, where he was pronounced dead. But at the wake, grieving relatives were shocked to notice the man exhibiting signs of life and immediately called a doctor. After the doctor confirmed he still had vital signs, the man was taken from the coffin and transferred to a hospital, only to be confirmed dead. Again. No, really. The man is now legitimately dead, but his family believes he was very much alive at his funeral and merely sedated due to the dental drugs. Woman gives birth to her own son during surrogate pregnancy. Earlier this year, Cali woman Jessica Allen gave birth to what she thought was twins while acting as a surrogate mother. Little did she know one of the babies was actually her own biological son, whom she conceived while already carrying the surrogate child. During pregnancy, a woman's body stops releasing eggs. However, in some extremely rare cases, they are still produced after one has been fertilized. This is called superfetation. In reported cases, this is where a woman conceives another child while already pregnant. Speaking to the New York Post, Jessica says the couple who hired her womb wanted nearly $20,000 in compensation after finding out the child wasn't theirs. She also says the adoption agency who arranged it all wanted money for looking after their baby boy. To make matters worse, she says both the agency and couple were separately considering putting the child up for adoption. But Jessica says the couple got nada and she eventually got her son back, though the legal battle left her and her husband Jasper $3,000 out of pocket. Unlike a twin pregnancy, superfetation is when 2 fetuses grow separately inside the same woman at different rates. In 2009, a doctor speaking to ABC about a case of superfetation said she could only find 10 cases of it in medical literature. What's even more amazing about Jessica's story is that she says she conceived her son while her husband was wearing a condom. Kaboom times 2. 2 super eruptions made the iconic Yellowstone Caldera what it is today, not one. Researchers analyzed samples of shell sediment and volcanic ash from the Santa Barbara Basin. From these, they were able to determine that the Yellowstone Caldera was formed by 2 volcanic eruptions 170 years apart. Each eruption was so powerful that it lowered the temperature of the planet and altered the climate. These 2 volcanic winters reportedly took place just as Earth was recovering from an ice age hundreds of thousands of years ago. That's pretty cool, right? Paralyzed man stands again after experimental treatment. A man paralyzed from a bad accident has regained the ability to stand and move his legs after receiving an experimental epidural treatment. Andrew Mees was paralyzed from the chest down after his spine was broken at the 6th and 7th cervical vertebrae in a motorcycle accident nearly 10 years ago. Mees has spent 4 years in physical rehabilitation, but has also been receiving an experimental treatment called spinal cord epidural stimulation. The device sends electrical signals to motor neurons telling them to move. At the end of the study, Mees was able to move his legs, stand on both feet or 1 foot entirely on his own. The results from the study show that the nervous system may be more resilient than previously thought. New hope for HIV patients. University of Maryland and Duke University researchers have designed a new vaccine that was able to stimulate an immune response against HIV's protective shield. HIV virus cells are covered with a protective protein called GP120, which itself is covered by a sugar shield to help bolster its defenses. Some infected individuals who can keep the virus at bay without medication often have antibodies that attack the protein. There has been little success in creating a similar vaccine because the sugars found in the shield resemble sugars in the human body. It's also difficult to engineer antibodies that can be effective against the multiple strains of HIV, which frequently mutate. Using a synthetic chemistry method, scientists have now designed a vaccine combining a GP120 fragment and a sugar molecule and tested it on HIV-infected rabbits. The vaccine prompted the rabbits' immune systems to produce antibodies that physically bound to GP120, found in 4 dominant HIV strains. It takes roughly 2 years to build immunity against HIV, so despite sticking to the virus, the antibodies weren't able to prevent further infection. But the vaccine's ability to induce a strong immune response in a short amount of time is encouraging, and researchers believe further studies can produce a vaccine that can ultimately neutralize the deadly virus. Stanford is turning internet cables into one big quake sensor. Awesome science coming out of Stanford this month may change earthquake detection as we know it. Stanford researchers are using miles of optical fiber cable installed beneath their university campus in a figure 8 shape to observe earthquakes. They used laser interrogators from company OptiSense to record seismic activity on the cables. The technology could one day be used by civil engineers to design buildings more capable of withstanding earthquakes. And that, Tomo sapiens, at least for earthquake-prone California, is awesome news.